So the last time I was on the camera, I decided to talk about a car that was 16 years old and was in pretty poor condition, but could still put a smile on the driver's face. Today, we're gonna go to something a little bit older, back to the time when big hair was a big deal.
This is a Honda Shadow 500 from the year 1985, which means that it's 11 years older than I am. Its lines are curvaceous and elegant like Angela Bassett, and the reflection in the paint is so deep that you may actually drown in it. And in an era where every single car on the street today looks the same and only comes in 3,000 different shades of white, gray, and black, the Shadow really does stand out, especially in this candy Scorpio red paint scheme. You see, Honda will tell you that the Shadow 500 is all out a cruiser, but I actually don't agree with that, and don't let the pretty looks fool you, because underneath that cowboy getup is a ninja lying in wait.
See, what I'm on about is this. You take one look at the Shadow and the first thing you notice is that it's relatively high off the ground, unlike your traditional conventional cruiser. Another thing is the Shadow used to have a long-lost twin bike called the Ascot 500. It shared the same 491cc V-twin that red lines at 9,500 RPM. And unlike most cruisers in this class, the Shadow has a light weight of 461 pounds with all the liquids in it, which means that you can actually toss it into a corner and come out alive.
To demonstrate, I suited up, and to the dismay of every Prius owner on the block, I started the old girl and her dirty carburetors up. I headed for the road, where I was immediately met by a man in an ATS-V and smoked at the light by a rich woman in a Maserati. So I went into this review thinking some things about the Shadow that I had heard, mainly being that they were easy to ride and easy to live with, but that they were rather dull and not really interesting to ride. With that in mind, I was actually pleasantly surprised at how maneuverable the vehicle is around town. The Shadow is actually light on its feet, like Floyd Mayweather, and it means that when you're going around town, you don't really have to worry about the bulk of your typical cruiser. The handling characteristics and cornering ability of this motorcycle are further enhanced by the neutral seating position. Most cruisers have a kicked out, relaxed seating position, but they turn like trucks, whereas the lightweight and the neutral seating position on the old Honda Shadow make it feel closer to a naked bike than a true cruiser. Let me put it this way, it flows smoother through the corners than Lil Uzi Vert and Lil Yachty can do through a rap song. It sounds great as well. The overall handling of this motorcycle is pretty good, however there is a flaw, and that is that the front suspension is a little bit too soft for extreme riding, just something to keep in mind. However, if you ask me, I do think it's the engine that sets this motorcycle apart. The 491cc V-twin makes 50 horsepower at 9,000 RPMs and 30.9 pound-feet of torque at 7,000, so you really do have to rev the snot out of it. The engine is not perfect, however, because it's such a high revving bike and you do have shorter gear ratios even though it's a 6-speed transmission. When you are going highway speeds, there's a little bit too much vibration in your hands and in your nether regions.
Is the 1985 Shadow 500 a cruiser? Well, from my experience after riding it around town and on the highway, No, it's not. It's a little bit too tingly at highway speeds and a bit too light, so it can get blown around a bit, but it's perfect around town, and when you find a back road, you can throw it into a corner, and you will come out the other side alive.
However, you do get good performance for the price, and I think it's a good deal for beginner riders and for returning riders alike.